There's a version of you that doesn't exist yet. Not the fantasy version you scroll past on Instagram at 2 a.m. Not the highlight reel. I'm talking about the person you'd be if you stopped negotiating with yourself every single morning. You know that feeling when you wake up and there's already a quiet argument happening in your head? It starts before you're even fully conscious. One voice says, today. Another whispers, maybe tomorrow. And most of the time, you don't even notice you've already chosen a side before your feet hit the floor. Here's what nobody tells you about that conversation: it's not actually about the thing you're avoiding. Never has been. I watched someone once, brilliant person, genuinely talented, spend 3 years preparing to prepare. 3 years. They had the notebooks, the research, the perfectly color-coded system for organizing their future breakthrough. They talk about it with this light in their eyes, that electric certainty that comes when you're close to something real. But every single time the moment came to actually begin, they discover one more thing they needed to learn first. One more certification. One more expert opinion. One more round of planning. The tragic part wasn't that they never started. The tragic part was watching them slowly stop believing in themselves. Each postponement carved away a little piece of their self-image, so gradually they didn't even feel it happening. Like erosion. Like standing in the ocean and not noticing the sand disappearing from under your feet until you're suddenly in deeper water than you meant to be. Your brain is running a simulation right now. Whether you know it or not, it's predicting what kind of person you are based on what kind of person you've been. And every time you break a promise to yourself, even the tiny ones, especially the tiny ones, you're feeding data into that simulation. You're teaching your brain what to expect from you. Think about the last time you said, I'll start Monday. What happened to that Monday? Because here's the mechanism most people miss. Your brain doesn't distinguish between breaking a promise to yourself and breaking a promise to anyone else. The same neural circuits fire. The same stress responses activate. The same erosion of trust begins. Except it's worse with yourself, because you can't walk away. You're trapped in a relationship with someone who keeps letting you down, and that someone is you. There's this moment that happens in every airport, usually around 5 a.m. when the terminal is still half asleep. You see these people moving through security with this quiet intensity, this focused calm. They're not rushing, but there's no hesitation in them either. They know exactly where they're going. They've done this before. There's a quality to their movement, like watching someone who's made peace with the price of admission. That's what competence actually looks like. Not confidence, not certainty, just the accumulated evidence of someone who has repeatedly shown up for themselves. The opposite is also visible, if you know what to look for. It's in the way someone's shoulders tense when they check their email. The split-second pause before answering, how's the project going? The specific kind of tiredness that isn't about lack of sleep, it's about carrying around the weight of everything you've told yourself you do but haven't. I used to think discipline was about forcing yourself to do hard things. Turns out, it's simpler and more complicated than that. Discipline is just self-trust built up over time through small, kept promises. That's it. It's not about being harder on yourself. It's about becoming someone you can rely on. But here's where it gets interesting and uncomfortable. Every time you choose the comfortable option, you're not just avoiding discomfort. You're actively constructing a personality. You're building a version of yourself that specializes in avoidance. And the brain is horrifyingly efficient at this. It will automate whatever you practice most. Give it 6 months of choosing comfort over commitment, and comfort seeking becomes your default program. It runs in the background. You won't even notice yourself doing it. This is why motivation is mostly useless. You're waiting for a feeling that's supposed to arrive and make hard things easy. But that feeling doesn't exist. What exists is the gap between who you are and who you're becoming, and that gap is always uncomfortable. Always. The question isn't how to make it comfortable. The question is, what are you building while you're uncomfortable? There's a specific kind of suffering that comes from unfinished business. It's different from the suffering of difficult work. Difficult work has a trajectory. You're tired, but you're somewhere. Unfinished business just sits there, generating this low-grade background radiation of anxiety. You can't fully relax because part of your brain is still tracking all the things you said you'd do. You can't fully focus because you're carrying this diffuse guilt about everything you're not doing. You end up in this weird liminal space where you're neither resting nor working, neither present nor productive, just suspended in this fog of should be doing something else. And that fog is expensive. It costs you sleep. It costs you presence with the people you love. It costs you the ability to actually enjoy the breaks you take because you haven't earned them and some part of you knows it. I'm not talking about productivity for productivity's sake. Every time you choose the comfortable option, you're not just avoiding discomfort. You're actively constructing a personality. You're building a version of yourself that specializes in avoidance. And the brain is horrifyingly efficient at this. It will automate whatever you practice most. Give it 6 months of choosing comfort over commitment, and comfort seeking becomes your default program. It runs in the background. You won't even notice yourself doing it. This is why motivation is mostly useless. You're waiting for a feeling that's supposed to arrive and make hard things easy. But that feeling doesn't exist. What exists is the gap between who you are and who you're becoming, and that gap is always uncomfortable. Always. The question isn't how to make it comfortable. The question is, what are you building while you're uncomfortable? There's a specific kind of suffering that comes from unfinished business. It's different from the suffering of difficult work. Difficult work has a trajectory. You're tired, but you're somewhere. Unfinished business just sits there, generating this low-grade background radiation of anxiety. You can't fully relax because part of your brain is still tracking all the things you said you'd do. You can't fully focus because you're carrying this diffuse guilt about everything you're not doing. You end up in this weird liminal space where you're neither resting nor working, neither present nor productive, just suspended in this fog of should be doing something else. And that fog is expensive. It costs you sleep. It costs you presence with the people you love. It costs you the ability to actually enjoy the breaks you take because you haven't earned them and some part of you knows it. I'm not talking about productivity for productivity's sake. There's this moment that starts to happen when you do this consistently. Maybe after 2 weeks, maybe after 2 months. You'll be in the middle of something difficult, and you'll notice you're still there. You didn't leave. You didn't find a distraction. You're just there, doing the thing. And there's this quiet realization, oh, I'm someone who does this now. That moment is worth more than any achievement. Because it's not about what you did. It's about who you've proven you are. The people who actually build things, who actually change their circumstances, who actually become different than they were, they all figured out the same secret. You can't negotiate with the work. You can only negotiate with yourself about when you'll do it. And every negotiation weakens you. So what if you stop negotiating? Not through force, not through some violent act of self-discipline, just through the simple, repeated act of doing what you said you'd do when you said you'd do it. Start with something so small it feels almost pointless. Then do it again tomorrow. Then again. Watch what happens to your relationship with yourself. You'll start to trust your own word again. And once you trust yourself, everything else becomes possible. Not easy. Possible. There's a difference. The gap between those two things, the easy path and the possible path, that's where your life is actually happening. Not in the fantasy of who you'll be once everything falls into place. Not in the comfort of perpetual tomorrow. Right here. In the uncomfortable space between knowing what to do and actually doing it. This is where you live now. The question is, what are you building here? Because you're building something whether you intend to or not. Every choice is construction. Every postponement is architecture. You're designing the shape of your future self with every single decision, including the decision to decide later. Most people never realize they're in charge of this. They think life happens to them, that circumstances determine outcomes, that some people are just built different. And then they spend decades waiting for the right moment, the right feeling, the right conditions. But the people who actually do the thing, they figured out that the right moment is the one where you decide to stop waiting for a right moment. There's no trumpet fanfare, no sudden clarity, no moment where it all finally makes sense and feels good and aligns with your mood. There's just now, and then now again, and then now again. String enough nows together, and you'll look up one day and realize you've become someone you actually respect. Not someone perfect. Not someone who never struggles. Just someone who shows up. Someone who keeps their word, especially to themselves. That person is worth more than any achievement, any accolade, any external validation. Because that person can build anything. Not because they're special, because they're reliable. So here's what I want you to do, and I want you to do it before the feeling passes. Pick the smallest possible version of the thing you've been avoiding. Not the whole thing. Not even a meaningful chunk. The smallest unit of action that counts as keeping your word. Then do it. Right now. Not tomorrow. Not later today. Now. Not because it will change everything. Because it will change one thing, the evidence you have about who you are. And if you do it again tomorrow, and again the day after, you'll start to accumulate a different kind of evidence. The kind that makes you dangerous. The kind that makes you free. Because the real prison isn't your circumstances. It's the version of yourself you keep choosing when you say tomorrow. The door's been open this whole time. You just have to walk through it.